Thank you for everybody that left questions. We just wanted to do this Q&A and get everybody up to speed as to who we are and what we do, how we got here, and everything else. Obviously, I'm Chad, and then this is my wife, Stacy. We've been married for almost 27 years now, so known each other for almost 30 years. So
I think it's over 30.
Nope.
Oh no, October,
Yep.
93. Yeah, 30 years this year.
Yep, I can does
Oh
math.
my God, I can't do math.
Okay.
At least you can does math.
Yeah. Let's see, we'll just start going down the list here on different questions.
One was, how did you and your sweetheart meet? You want to show that one or you want me to?
Nah, you're better at that kind of stuff, so.
Chad and I met my senior year of high school. I had a friend who was dating Chad's good friend. So you guys have met Kendall or seen him on the show. He's the body guy. My best friend from elementary school married Kendall and they were dating at the time. Tiffany and Kendall are the reason we got to know each other. When she said, you gotta meet Chad. And I was like, okay. We were cruising Maine. It's back in the day when you could cruise State Street here in town. We pulled into the gas station to get a drink and in walked Chad. And my friend was like, hey, that's Chad. And I was like, the old guy? She was like,
old, yeah.
the old guy. Well, he did body work. So he worked at AF Collision Repair in town and he had been helping a friend do body work. And so they did a whole bunch of sanding with Bondo. He had blown off, but not very well. So it was all in his hair and so he looked great. I mean, like he does now, but at 21. So
I was 20. Let's get that right.
And he looked old. So I was like, he's an old dude. Why would you try to set me up with the old guy? Months after I met him again, and I was like, oh, he's pretty cute. So I chased him at that point. How are you related to Paul? Are you related to Paul?
I'm not related to Paul.
And if you're not, how did you meet?
Darwin and I have been friends for 20 years. I met Dar through Matt McAllister, a longtime friend. Matt grew up in Kanab down by them guys. Darwin had been talking about Paul for a long time and had been trying to get us together for quite some time as well because we kind of do things fairly similarly. Finally, October of 21, we're finally able to meet and talk and at that time Paul was building his FJ and one thing led to another and here we are. Crazy to think that we've only known each other for a year and a half.
They're a family that fit into our lives like they've meant to be there forever. We're happily consider them family and
Absolutely,
being related.
I would take them as family, yeah.
To go with that, there was another question of how do we know Matt and Robbie, Merlin, Rory, the whole group.
Everything's been pretty well through Paul.
Yeah.
So
then you also met Robbie because of Papa Dar.
Yeah, I took the bed that Robbie painted for Dar. I delivered that to him, and that was at the time when the Nugget project was in full swing. I offered to help Robbie with the metal work on the Nuggets. Robbie and I have been pretty good friends since, so he's a fun guy.
Paul introduced us to Matt, and then met Rory and Merlin through the Wrecker stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm old. I have to wear glasses now. I'm doing the granny glasses. I'm an Anna grandma, so it's fine. How were you always in such a good mood?
Short answer is I'm not, so.
But you don't see off camera.
Yeah. Life is life, so, but I just make it a point to get over it as quick as I can and move on.
You got to make the best of what you're in. When did you start wiring, and what is the biggest job you've ever done?
I've always done a little bit of wiring. That's just part of the auto repair experience. As far as wiring big projects, I haven't done as many as you might think I have. I've probably done 12 or 14 full wiring jobs. The biggest one I've done is definitely Matt's. That's a lot of wire on that one. Though Paul's wasn't that much easier. It had a similar amount of wiring on it. Matt's was a little bit more complicated just because of the way it had to come apart.
You ever sell any of the old trucks in the yard?
Nope.
I wish.
Yeah. No, they are so hard to come by that when I find them, I rattle them. So I actually own even more than what's out there. So used to use more for parts, but where they're getting so hard to find, I just keep them complete to have for future projects, especially with all my kids.
Each one of our boys builds a car with their dad. Kind of their big project. Kenners will be coming up.
Yep, Kenners will be coming in right quick.
What was your first vehicle?
My first vehicle was a 73 Nova my dad gave me when I was 14 or 15. I never did really drive it. It was in pretty bad shape, but I did use it for parts for my second Nova that I was able to get. And I drove it for a couple of years until we parted it out for my Firebird that I still have.
I first met him with the Firebird. We actually dated in that Firebird.
In that mix somewhere, I also was given a 70 Buick Electra. I love that car.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that was a fun car.
The big boat. That, and I had my 1992 Saturn SL2. Still have it.
Mm-hmm.
We call it the race rocket. While we're on vehicles,
Yep.
Chad has a bunch of cars in his life. So we have Bob.
Bob's a big orange Blazer.
What about Bob?
Okay, so what about Bob? Bob is a 71 Blazer, has a supercharged 6-liter LS in it, 4L80 trans and 1-ton axles and all that kind of good stuff. Had Bob for 20 years. And over that time, we've done a lot of work to it. So about the only thing that's original on it is parts of the frame, and most of the sheet metal's original. 71 sheet metal, not original to the Blazer, because it was in really bad shape when I got it. It's been our family cruiser for a long time, so.
And the boys all grew up loving that. Every one of them.
Yep.
Caden was the one that was always say, Dad, push the forwards pedal.
The frontwards
The
pedal.
frontwards pedal.
Yeah, push the frontwards pedal, Dad.
Then we have our 1994
GMC dually. That's another one we've had for a long time. 23 years we've owned that truck. Pretty ragged looking, but it's served well and continues to do so. It has a supercharged 454 in it.
There's a theme here.
Yeah, there is a theme here.
And we call that the dually.
Yeah, that's just the dually. That's simply the dually. And then we have a 01 Yukon XL 3/4 ton. It has an 8.1 in it. So, but it's
The family cruiser.
That is the family truckster. So that's what everybody piles in when we go somewhere. I've had that one for 13 or 14 years now. We just drive the wheels off of it. So Stacy has her Jeep. It's a 2012 JK with a supercharged 3.6 in it, of course. Just all your standard lift and 35s and all of that. That's her cruiser. So
Nothing crazy about that one. In fact, I told him not to put the supercharger on it, but I will tell you, all of you out there that say there's nothing like the therapy of a supercharger, I'm in. Totally agree.
yep.
Love that thing. Call it my midlife crisis car. It's the silver Rubicon with no name. If you got any ideas for us on that, we have never found a name for that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I still have my 92 Saturn, the little race rocket.
Yep.
It's a manual, so that's how we teach all our boys how to drive a manual.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Fred, the red Ford.
Oh yeah.
So we have simple names for Chad.
Yeah. I'm a simple guy.
Bob and Fred.
Yeah.
And the boys actually named it Fred. It was a red Ford.
Mm-hmm.
But then they love cars and they said, oh, we're going to have him so long it's going to look like Fred.
Yeah. Kind of like the dually, so.
I know, we probably will have it that long.
Yeah. And then out in the barn we have my Firebird, my high school car, so got a whole stack of parts for it, so hopefully get that one started here soon.
We just need to have less with the day-to-day business so that once that comes in, we have a place for it, because once that project starts,
Yeah, it isn't moving anytime,
Yeah.
anywhere, so
that's a big project that he's been waiting for a long time.
nearly 30 years.
And then we got Griz, that'll be a wrecker, for an off-road wrecker. It won't be as nice as the Blazer, so he can take it wherever he wants.
Yep.
Because the Blazer doesn't take it on all the crazy spots.
I just don't want to smash it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's true. Caden has Black Betty. Caden's got his Blazer coming. Kian has his 72 GMC
Mm-hmm.
two-wheel drive, long bed, pickup.
Original paint truck.
And that was his high school car. He's also got the Cherokee Massacre. What is it that you like and unlike the most?
Most things I do like. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question. I definitely like working with my boys and my brother too. It's a lot of fun to work with Dusty. As far as things that I don't really like to do, sometimes some of the tedious stuff gets really old. Like when I get a project that has a ton of rust repair, that starts to wear on me. I really don't think there's a lot of things.
Few cars you won't work on.
Oh, right. Yeah, definitely. Because, yeah. Yeah.
Where did you learn all this? Did you go to school? Is this a hard knocks thing? How did you come to be working on cars? Where'd you learn it? And did you start in a garage or your driveway?
Let's see. So my dad did a lot of car stuff growing up, mostly a hobby for him. So kind of always something I've been interested in. I learned quite a bit with him. Had a really good teacher in high school that taught me a lot of basic stuff on newer cars, or new cars at the time. Beyond that, after high school, I don't really have any formal training. Everything has just been school of hard knocks. I got huge tuition piles for things that I've screwed up and had to start over on, and just a matter of getting out and doing it and not be scared of making a mistake.
In high school, did the VICA competitions a couple years. Won VICA his senior year.
Yep.
So that got him on, kind of on the path, and worked at multiple dealerships.
Yeah, definitely a lot of experience in different shops on different cars. Gave me a pretty broad background of things to draw from.
But the interest in the old 72 trucks and all that, that's all his dad.
That's all Dad, yep.
And we've passed it on.
Yep.
What about your boys? Do they work for you full time? Do all of your boys have an interest in doing this?
So Kian, my oldest son, works for me full time, and Caden works for us part time.
Kian's married. He's married to Jess. They have our first granddaughter, our one and only grandchild, Allie.
Yep. And then Caden is getting married, as most of you know. Our other boys, they do have varying levels of interest in this, but they're all hands-on doers for sure.
Kenner has the 50 truck that will be coming in probably this summer. He's big into anything with the CAD design stuff. He does all the 3D printing and everything else.
Yep.
And he's really big into RC cars. Spent a lot of his money on RC cars.
Yep.
Tyler, he's our square body kid, and he loves band. He's different.
But he's still hands-on. He loves to do things, loves to learn, and
yeah, he's our peacemaker.
yep. Corbin, our youngest,
You guys all know Corbin.
Yep. He's got it pretty bad, I would have to say. So not much gets by him. He loves cars, and he loves working on anything and tinkering with whatever.
Filthy, dirty grease monkeys right from the get-go.
So Dusty is my brother, one with long beard. Everybody says he looks like Trevor. He comes and helps as much as he can. So, and the other guy with the beard is Tyson. So Tyson and Dusty have been friends since junior high.
Tyson's more family than...
Yeah, he really is. He's as much family as anybody.
Yeah.
So
One of the best parts of YouTube is getting all of Dusty around most of the time, and Tyson over more, and the boys out in the shop continually.
yeah, I learn new things every day, and as you can tell by our videos, I like to pass that knowledge on to others to help them, and I especially like to share it with my boys as much as they're interested in.
Well, I will say that Chad's the only reason I know anything about cars.
You can hate me later.
We run a repair shop right now, full time. That's what the boys both work for us with as well. I became his service writer just before Kenner was born, so over 16 years ago. He started having to teach me the stuff even though my eyes would glaze over. So I have learned a lot about the stuff. How did you get started in YouTube?
Well, that's kind of a long, convoluted story. The short version is when I decided to sell my 72 at Barrett Jackson, decided it needed a fair amount of work to get top dollar out of it. At that point, Caden was gone on his mission, and he was fairly upset that I was selling it while he was gone. We decided to record that whole process and post it on YouTube.
Then family could follow it. And
yeah, and it would just all be there, and we wouldn't have to keep track of it. But so we actually sold the 72 at Barrett Jackson about a month or so before I met Paul. So we had all of these different videos going. None of it was good quality by any stretch of the imagination. And I went to help Paul get the FJ running, and between Christmas and New Year's of 21. He gave us a shout out, and things just kind of took off from there.
Kian was doing the editing before then. And then the plan was that I was around King of Hammers of 2022. That we decided I could do some of the videography and some of the editing. And then Kian started dating his wife, and he never had time for editing again.
Yep.
From that point on,
Yep.
I started editing full time. So I do all the editing, except for the tech videos. Any of the Chad tech, Kian does those. I don't know what's going on enough to follow along.
Yeah, you would hate me after it, so.
I can't stay awake. What knife and flashlight do you use, Chad? Because you don't like headlights, you put a flashlight in your mouth.
Yeah, I've actually had a lot of people ask why I don't own a headlight, and that's not true. I own about 10 headlights, and I hate every single one of them. I do. They bother me. I sweat under them. and every time I look up, the light's pointing in somebody's eyes, so I don't like it. This light right here is made by Streamlight. It's called their Wedge. It fits in your pocket, USB rechargeable, and it's quite bright. And it fits in my mouth quite well. So, and then my knife is Columbia River, and I don't remember what the model is on. You can buy these on Amazon or direct from any place that sells the Columbia River knives. Works really good, nice and slender.
And I'm sure you see from the interaction, so Chad is the kind of guy that's comfortable in a crowd of 5, maybe 10 people.
2's a crowd for me. So.
He really is. He's the introvert. I'm way more of an extrovert, so I'll totally work a room of 50 people. I am in heaven if there's a whole crowd I get to go meet and hang out with and associate with. I make you get out of your comfort zone, and he makes me learn things I never planned to.
Yeah.
It's been really good, but I will tell you, all of Chad's family teases him non-stop. That he's the YouTube guy. Because out of the whole family, they said they never figured it would be Chad.
No, I'm the last person in the world, you'd think. So.
Would be on YouTube. And yet here he is.
Yeah.
There's several tech questions.
Yep. My shirt's dirty, so that means I've been working, so.
I'll just step back and you can do these. What minimum torque and horsepower should be in an engine to run 37s?
It really isn't a question of how much power or torque, you just want the right gear ratio. See guys running Jeeps with a 2.5 that makes all of about 90 horsepower, and they go down the highway okay, they'll run 55, 60, but you need the right gear ratio, which on 37s you'd probably, on a low horsepower, you'd probably want some 538s, possibly lower. If you have decent horsepower, then 513s would probably be fine, and if you're running a diesel, even 456s or 410s would be just fine for that. Question is if I've ever played with any portal axles, probably Unimog 404s is probably what he's referring to specifically, but I've never done anything with any portals or Unimog axles at all. That's been more money than I've ever had to play with. Kevin Collins 5201 writes, I have a 95 Chevy Tahoe 4-wheel drive 5.7 2-door. When I start driving and the transmission goes from first to second, it slams in feeling like it's going to rip the rear end right out of the truck. So on a high mileage 4L60, usually what happens is the spring in the 1.2 accumulator breaks. So it doesn't have that cushion to soften the 1.2 shift. Combine that with a band that's got some wear in it, and they'll slam really hard. You could put a new spring in that accumulator and it would make it way better. Unfortunately, to do that you have to pull the valve body out, but any competent transmission shop should be able to handle that.
What's the most versatile power steering system to be roadworthy and off-road capable?
That's a tough question. That's kind of vehicle dependent and tire size. If it's like a Jeep or even like a half-ton pickup, the stock steering box works pretty good. Just get a good power steering pump and maybe even adjust the relief valve on the power steering pump to up the pressure right around 1,200 pounds, and they work really quite well. In fact, that's all I'm doing on my Blazer right now. Stock box, stock pump with the pressure turned up, and 95% of the time it works just fine. If you've got something that's bigger, driving it on the highway, really the only other option is to go hydraulic ram, so ram assist, and that keeps good street driving manners, just a little bit more complicated.
Will IFS systems work well with 37s off-road?
Generally, no. Most of them don't have the strength to do that off-road if you're using them aggressively. You could put a lot of upgrade parts and say like a 3/4 ton Chevy type system. There is a lot of parts available to make them better, but they're still pretty fragile in an off-road type of environment.
Jeff Kovacs, that's will you do my differential work?
Sure.
Local.
Yeah, we still do run a shop here, so I do most jobs that are less than about 6 hours. If it's something you want to have me do, just send us an email and we'll talk about it, get you on schedule.
chadsfab@gmail.com.
Yep.
Do you recommend amp power steps for off-roading?
Amp steps are great. They're real good to get in and out of, but they're not very strong. If you rub a rock across it, it'll bend it and it'll be garbage. So it depends on what you're gonna do. If you think you're gonna rub them across a rock or anything like that, then that's gonna be an expensive boo-boo.
Ever thought about a class on the YouTube University?
The problem with I'm running into with my tech videos is they're extremely expensive and they take a lot of time, and not very many people watch them. I only do them just because I like to teach people and I know it helps some people, but as far as doing a full-on deal, I don't know how I could ever afford to do that.
Favorite part of a build besides demolishing the bed of the camper?
That's always fun. Demolition's always fun, so get creative and have some fun with it. I kind of like the design and layout, and I really like building the big parts.
What's on your bucket list, Chad?
I'd love to go do like a driving school, like a Bondurant style driving school, and maybe some off-road type driving schools. Beyond that, I don't know.
Can you make a video with just your inspirational sayings, your PSAs, your public service announcements? We do plan to do that. It'll be a year come June or July that he's been doing them. And I plan on around the year mark to do a year in review of just the sayings.
Nathan Rice, 4386, asks, what axle is this? And are all axles pretty much the same? So on the limo, the rear was a Ford 10.5, and then the front was a Dana 60, also out of a Ford Super Duty. So they're really similar the way they set up, just the shim placement's different. The rear axle is 10.5, is real similar to a Ford 8.8 or a Chevy 10 or 12 bolt axle, and the shims are on the outside of the side bearing races, so they're pretty easy to do. Dana's typically put the shims between the bearing and the differential, so you have to press the bearings on and off to switch those shims out. But as far as setting it up, it's real similar with all the shims in the similar places. Like a Ford 9-inch or a GM 14 bolt uses nuts on the outside, so you can adjust those and not have to deal with shims. It makes it a lot faster to set up the back lap.
Did Elmer Fudd ever get Bugs Bunny?
Did Elmer Fudd ever get Bugs Bunny? You know, he probably would have if they wouldn't have replaced his gun with a plunger. What the heck is an Elmer Fudd gonna do with a plunger against a rabbit? But I digress. So.
What's the plan for the tow truck cab? I'm assuming the red Ford cab.
So the carcass of the red tow truck that Paul brought to me is just gonna be that. Once I pull the boom off of it, the rest of it's probably just gonna get scrapped. Somebody does have dibs on the motor. I have no plans for the rest of it.
So if you want it, chadsfab@gmail.com. Just email us.
Yep.
Do you do these builds, axles, wiring, etc. in your sleep?
Yeah, everything I do, I probably do in my sleep for days on end before I actually get a chance to do it.
Apparently, if you have any relatives in Philadelphia, Canada, there's a few other places, people would love you to come work on their stuff there.
Oh.
You should know though, our relatives are in Utah.
Pretty much, yeah.
We have one in Arizona.
Yeah, so basically all of our relatives are here, and honestly, that's a long ways to go just to work on something, so usually people bring them here, so we got one out there that somebody from Vermont brought to us to work on.
So thanks for watching.
Till next time, remember to find new things, and don't be scared to learn something new. Thanks for watching.
I'm not scared, I just don't want to.